Hola, mi nombre es Daniela Cepeda Martínez de Promoción de Paz. Soy su maestra de inglés y el día de hoy vamos a continuar con nuestra segunda clase en donde vamos a ver adjectives, positive, comparative and superlative. Vamos a comenzar. So what are the adjectives positive, comparative and superlative? What are they used for? Well, they compare objects. You can use either superlatives in addition to comparative adjectives. So let's see how we can form superlative and comparative adjectives. Here we have our grammar box. You can see that the comparative form of an adjective is either adding the ending er or adding the word more before each other positive adjective. And this compares to people, things, or places. The superlative form, you add the ending est or the word most before the positive adjective. This compares 3 or more people, things, or places. Here we have 3 columns: the positive adjective, which is the simplest form of the adjective, the comparative, and the superlative. We have adjectives that have 1 syllable, as old and big. We have adjectives that end in y, adjectives with 2 or more syllables, and irregular forms. For example, old in comparative would be older, and in superlative, the oldest of all. When we are talking about superlative adjectives, we're referring to a bunch of people, things, or places, not only 2. So big would be bigger or the biggest. In the case of the adjectives that end in y, as you can see, when you want to turn this positive adjective into a comparative or superlative adjective, we have to change the y into an I and then add er if it's comparative and est if it's superlative. For example, when we have adjectives with 2 or more syllables, it is better to add more or most before the adjective. And finally, in the irregular form, these adjectives cannot be turned into comparative or superlative by simply just adding er or est. We have to change the word a little bit. For example, good would be better or best, bad, worse or the worst, and far would be farther or farthest. Entonces, para recapitular un poquito, tenemos un adjetivo positivo y lo que se va a hacer para convertirlo en comparativo es agregar er al final, en el caso de adjetivos con una sola sílaba o adjetivos que se terminen en y, cambiando la y por una i y luego agregando er o est si lo queremos hacer superlativo. Cuando tenemos una palabra un poquito más grande como esta que viene aquí, expensive, que tiene 2 o más sílabas, es mejor poner la palabra more, o sea, más caro, o the most expensive, o sea, el más caro de todos. Y en el caso de los adjetivos irregulares, como ya mencioné, estas son palabras que no se puede simplemente agregar er o st, entonces tenemos que cambiar un poquito la palabra, pero no hay ninguna complicación, esto es muy fácil, se van a ir aprendiendo poco a poco. So let's start with examples of positive adjectives, which is the simplest form of adjectives. First, we have, this book is long. This is describing the book. The airport is far. My dad is a good cook. My dog is pretty. All of these positive adjectives are the simplest forms of the adjectives, and they are describing something. Then we have examples of comparative adjectives. As I mentioned before, a tip when using comparative adjectives is adding er to the positive regular form of the adjective. Note that this is not applicable to irregular adjectives, as I mentioned before. So, the first sentence would be, this book is longer than the last book. It is comparing 2 books. The airport is farther than the train station. El aeropuerto está más lejos que la estación de tren. My dad is a better cook than my brother. Mi papá es un mejor cocinero que mi hermano. My dog is prettier than his dog. Mi perro es más bonito que su perro. So examples for superlative, as I mentioned before, you can add the ending est or the word most. This book is the longest book of them all. The airport is the farthest airport. My dad is the best cook. My dog is the prettiest. Mi perro es el más bonito. We're almost done. Hanging there, we're getting a little bit closer to ending this class. So let's review all of the adjectives that we have seen today. For example, this orange is more delicious than that apple. More delicious. Delicious is a 2 or more syllable adjective. And more is to make this adjective into a comparative adjective. We're comparing the orange with the apple. La naranja es más deliciosa que la manzana. The oldest cousin is turning 15. El primo más grande va a cumplir 15. The most important test is tomorrow. El examen más importante es mañana. Most. This is a superlative, 2 or more syllable adjective. My dog is bigger than his cat. Mi perro es más grande que su gato. And finally, we're done. I hope that every topic we have seen today is clear. And if not, you can ask any question that you want to tell me. I will try to make better videos or better examples. Pueden preguntarme lo que sientan y consideren necesario. Y nos vamos a ver pronto en nuestra siguiente clase. Muchas gracias.